Hello everyone, good morning, and welcome back to Freedom Harvest Farms. My name, of course, is Aislinn Campbell. I've got my mom there to help me out today on the other side, Vicki. And today, over the last 2 weeks, we have begun a process of discussing the permaculture principles. Now, there are 12 permaculture principles that were started by David Holmgren, and we're going through each one of those, just discussing how they can be implemented into your production and the types of processes you're doing. And what do they tend to mean when they're talking about these certain types of principles? Permaculture is a little different than regenerative agriculture in that, for the most part, regenerative agriculture is specifically related to how I grow my food and produce and how do I create agriculture, right? The process of a regenerative lifestyle is similar lifestyle, but when we're talking about the principles of regenerative agriculture, we're talking specifically about how we grow in our farms, in our gardens, and things like that. However, when we talk about permaculture, permaculture is an entire lifestyle and design use, and that's how you fit it all into your lifestyle. And so you look at each one of these principles. Last week we talked about observe and interact. And yes, of course, I'm walking around on the farm today in the gardens, and I'm relating those ideals, values to something that's tangible. And that's a good way to bring permaculture in. So last week we talked about observe and interact. If you want to go check that out on YouTube, that's up on YouTube. And this week we're talking about how to capture and store energy. Now, most of the time when anybody talks about capturing and storing energy, most people think, gosh, that's solar panels, that's battery banks, that's things that I maybe don't have the expertise to do. But the truth of the matter is, storing energy comes in any way that you can capture the energy and transition it into an energy that can then be used on the planet, for us to be used on the planet. The energy that we talk about when we're talking about using electricity is really the same thing. If you're capturing solar, if you're capturing wind, or if you're extracting the resources from the earth. Where did those resources from the earth, where did those resources from the sun, where did all that stuff come from, and how did we get it stored into the earth to begin with? And what it came from was life on the planet, like plants and animals and trees and grass and all of those types of things. And as over the centuries, as things transitioned, they were turned into different things we discovered as humans that we could use. Coal, oil, all the different shale, different things that we're able to use and turn into something for energy. Well, of course, we also learned that we could take the food that we're eating, and that becomes energy for our system. We know that sugar, honey, all of these things are energy captures, and our body is actually a storage unit for energy. But so is a plant's body, right? And so a really good way to look at how am I storing energy on this farm? This is the greatest energy capture that we have on the farm. It's the production and the plants and the green life that we have here on the farm. Every single time I grow something massive like this, I'm actually capturing the energy from the sun. The plants bring it in and store it, right? They store it in their roots. They store it in their leaves. They store it in their flowers. They store it in the pollen and the nectar that's all inside of them. All of that is that sugar, that energy that we need in order to turn it into something else that we can use on our land. And so every single thing, when I grow something big like this, at some point it's going to have to be knocked down. Whether I go through with some trimmers and cut some of it down and use it and then put it into pathways and stuff like that, or whether I actually just mow it down and lay it down, and then it becomes another layer of carbon on the ground, on the floor in my gardens, right? Carbon, you hear a lot about that. You're hearing a lot right now about carbon sequestering, how much carbon do you use, your carbon footprint, all of these things. Well, carbon is just energy. Carbon is sugar. Carbon is the way that we store energy on the planet. And mulch is a good way to see that as well. So when you walk past my gardens, you hear me oftentimes talking about all the different needs for having flowers. A few weeks ago, you can see it on my YouTube video, I talk about the benefits of flowers. And all I'm saying basically is this: how do we take this energy of a flower and turn it into, actually capture it, store it, and turn it into something that we can then use? So I'm talking about cut flowers, right? Flowers that I can use for edible arrangement or edible salads. Last night I had a big, huge party out here for a friend's memorial. I made this beautiful potato salad, and all across the top of it was all these beautiful flowers, something my friend Lisa would have absolutely loved and done herself. But it's something that I can then take the energy of all the little things that are growing around my farm and use that to bring life to a party, right? I can also turn it into money. It also, things like bees. We have bees here on the property. If you have beehives, there's a bee. No, there's a bee right there. Look. So if you have beehives on your property, then your bees are storing energy for you because they're storing honey. And then that's an energy that can be used. So when they talk about in permaculture, there's lots of bees. When they talk about in permaculture capturing and storing energy, they're not only talking about power banks and solar panels and all of that kinds of stuff. And so I think that part of the conversation needs to be broadened as, how do I store energy? Because you could store energy on your patio in an urban apartment, because you actually are bringing energy into plants and then turning that into all kinds of different things. So you have the ability to store, and I talk oftentimes about all the different things that we can do to conserve energy, to use energy, all of these types of things. But most of the time, last night we had a quick conversation about recycling. Well, recycling, the best way we can do these environmental capture type situations is to actually grow stuff. This is the number one most important thing we can do to capture energy. And then of course, if we're talking about the recycling like we were last night, well, we need to transition away from using some of those other things. But in the meantime, what we have is the ability to actually capture. This is a big reason why the biggest investment you can make right now is land, because you can turn land into energy. Of course, we're conserving mulch. So when someone brings me mulch, that's actually like them bringing me money. Okay? And when I put this stuff down on my land, on my soil, I now have captured energy into my soil. There's some initiatives even to get an idea of how to understand how much energy is being captured in the soil. Because if I had a solar panel here, or if I had a wind turbine here on my property, then I could actually know how much energy I'm conserving and storing, right? And so there's a way to begin to understand, well, how can we keep an eye on how much energy is actually being stored in production like this? The mulch, the growth, all of this stuff is going to turn into the energy that I need to turn into food, the energy that I need to turn into healthy life, to grow better trees. If I grow better trees, then I've got wood that I can burn, and that's energy. I can warm food. I'm creating a system of recycling of energy just by planting my garden. And you can see all of the different ways that that's happening here. Look at how beautiful my, you're attached to a sunflower. I had a feeling going down this pathway over here. Hi, you say me, yeah. All right, we're gonna keep going right past this. It's time for me to do a little sunflower cleaning. It's next on the list. We got a lot of mulching done this week. I've got my friend Lewis that's coming out to help me out now. And so you can see how nice the mulch is on the trees over there. You can see the pear trees and the different fruiting trees that we have that have got a lot of mulch on them. And so all of that is places where I'm storing energy. Yes, I'm contributing to the health of my plants, but I'm storing energy. When I grow all that, you see how covered that is? Now you can see down here, it's less covered, but all of this stuff, when I go to cut it down, it's going to go back into my gardens because everything has that cyclical nature. I need it. That's regeneration. I'm not only conserving and storing, but I'm creating more of it, and conserving and storing, and then creating more of it. And that's the cycle that we're looking for in these production models of regenerative, but also understanding all of these techniques of permaculture as well. You can see here, nice big piles of mulch. This is a pile of energy. That's what that is. And now it's going to turn into food for the life that's around. It's going to conserve water, and it's going to keep me in a place where I have good energy available to grow good food. But then, how do I take some of that energy? Right? I can take it from food for my own body, for my family, or I can turn it into money, which I do. I grow and sell to restaurants. I grow and sell to families. So every piece of energy in here is valuable to me. Every piece of it. Then I start to think about something like, I noticed that one of the things that they talked about as a way to conserve energy is to actually take and use your fermented foods, use fire to use the sunlight and the wood and the fire to cook food outside, to actually create sun teas and things like that with lemon in your water, and making your drinks with the energy that comes down from the sun, right? So these are all different ways that we can capture and store energy, rather than just the very quick ways that mostly are going to be sold in the general media population. Oh, this is how you conserve energy. This is how you save energy. There's lots of other ways to create this cyclical effort, and to, while you're using less energy, you're actually producing more energy. And so when I say I'm a soil farmer first, what I'm saying to you is I'm an energy farmer first. That's a better way to even describe when someone says soil farmer, they're an energy farmer. And so there's different ways to understand how we capture. Look, this is a medicinal flower right here. It's called a calendula flower. It's a very important flower. I have taken one tiny seed and turned it into medicine. That's a way to capture the energy I'm going to need for the future, dry that stuff out, and then conserve and put it back. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the regenerative things that I teach about. And if you come and ask me what types of fertilizers to use, what types of insect sprays to use, I'm most of the time going to give you an answer you really don't want. And the reason you don't want that answer is because we want to be able to just go buy a solution. But what I'm teaching is a technique. And why am I teaching it that way? Because if you spend a lot of money on fertilizers and insect sprays and things like that, you're never creating that ongoing, regenerative, sustainable permaculture style production, and you're never going to get your money back. So you're actually not conserving, you're not storing and capturing energy, you're actually spending more than you take. And so that's a lot of, when you look at the fields, the big agricultural fields that we're dealing with, the reason they're not making any money is because they're not capturing and storing any of the energy. They're expending, but there's nothing to repay what they're taking. And so that's not a sustainable method. And it eventually, 50, 75, 100 years, will die out and take a lot of people with it, sadly. So this is what we're trying to do in order to get a better understanding of how we can conserve and capture and store that energy that that is given to us from the sun. Look at these, the grapes here. And then what's going to happen with these, they're going to be turned into wine. And guess what? We store energy. It's just like having gas in your tank, or gas in your storage unit. You store energy by storing wine. You preserve wine. That's a biblical reference. It's something that we've been doing forever, and that is fermenting stuff and turning it into energy that we can use later on. And that's exactly what the idea of alcohol was from the very beginning. And so this is a way that we're taking the land, the things that we've done here, and as quickly as possible, turning it into energy that we can store and that we'll have for future use. And there are years where it's not as good. There are years where we don't have as much capture, but then we have capture in other places. And then you rely on the things that are always going to be good capture, like your sunflowers. Think about it. It's a sunflower. That's its job. Its job is literally to be a productive resource on your land to help you draw the energy that you need from all different ways and using it in all different places. Careful of that stick there. And eventually, like I said, I'll come in and trim some of this stuff back, and then guess what happens? It gets put right back down here. You can see the heavy mulch that I'm putting back down here. Storing all of my energy that I can, and taking the energy from other places, not just from the sun and the wind and all of those things, but take, someone's trees that got chopped down. As far as I'm concerned, someone gave me their money, and I put it right back here in my soil. That's no different than going and buying a $3 gallon of gasoline. It's the same exact concept. It might even be more valuable than the gasoline at the end of the day if I had an ability to quantify that. And there are quantifiable means of doing that out there. I'm just not that interested in looking it up. So here's a good way to capture and store. I know that this celosia plant is going to grow more flowers, and the leaves are food. I know that it's going to grow every year, so I reseed it. And I don't know that I've told this story, or I probably have told this story before, but this original flower came from a bouquet at a farmer's market. It was probably 5 years ago. And I have just taken that seed and just moved it and moved it and moved it and moved it. So I took one seed or a handful of seeds and turned them into a mountain of abundance. So I've got this flower everywhere, growing everywhere now, anytime I want it to, in the when it's in seasonal. And so that's a way that I have actually stored energy. Spider legs.
Glad you're first.
Every single one of these things that has flowers in it is another way that we're just capturing more green flowers, all of that, capturing more sunlight. Every single garden is capturing more energy and storing it in the food that I eat. Look at these things that I was harvesting out this morning. Some cucumbers, some green beans. I've got some squash that I'm harvesting. All of that is the energy that came from that came from small amounts of energy that got us started. And then you create these methods of regeneration and permaculture gardens, and you use these techniques to store and capture the energy that you're looking for. And so that's an extremely important part of this new movement towards really being truly sustainable and actually conserving and being a location on the planet that has the ability to store its own energy, right? And the most easiest ways you can store its energy, another great example of a way that we store energy is by having dug out a pond. There's a huge pond in the back. We store water in there. Water means that our plants have life. It means that our animals have life. It means that our animals can put back energy into the land because we've created a capture space. And what you're looking for when you're creating capture isn't the newfangled hydroponics, big giant facility. The quickest way is the easiest way that requires the least amount of investment, the least amount of income put in, and the quickest amount of return on investment is what we're looking for. And so start with what you can do, and then move yourself in the direction of picking up new, even more innovative ways of doing it in the future, and working with other people that have ideas. That's the observe and interact that we talked about last week. So I have loved speaking to you guys about this. I'm enjoying this permaculture. We've got 10 more weeks of kind of digging through this and looking at how our gardens, as those 10 weeks come, we're going to be going into the summer. And so we're going to be able to look at how do we use permaculture in the summertime when the gardens aren't as beautiful. And so that's going to be an interesting transition to get to make over these next 10 weeks of talking about these particular principles. Thank you so much for joining me here on Sunday mornings, every Sunday morning. If you're here with me on YouTube and you're doing the replay, say hi in the comments and please subscribe to my channel. And then also don't forget, every Monday here at Freedom Harvest Farms in Taft, Texas, message me and let me know you want to come out. The farm is open. We have garden healing out here. I have lots of folks that come out. Tomorrow's Memorial Day, so it'll be a great day. A lot of people are off from work. It'll be an opportunity for you to come out. I have a little bit of produce for sale. And then I also have my Food is Medicine cooking class on Tuesday evening. If you're interested in that, please message me and let me know so that I can get you on the list of people that are coming out so I can be prepared for the number of people. We're going to be cooking a couple of things and talking about all the different ways to make life easier for you and your family as you're learning to do a clean eating diet. And I'll tell you that last night I had the opportunity with a great big awesome event to reintroduce a few of the foods that I have cut out of my diet. And so I'm getting to the phase of not only being able to help with the full elimination diet, the full 120 days elimination diet, but also to be able to talk about how does it feel to reintroduce some things as that as well. One last thing, the podcast comes out on Monday. I'm super excited. I have my friend Chef Zelina, and she's going to talk about her new restaurant. So if you want to hear more about that, tune in to the podcast, dinnertabletalks.com. If you have any more questions for me, I'm always here and available to talk. I'll see you all very soon. Have a wonderful week and happy Memorial Day tomorrow.